I guess we are the only ones watching the movie. These guys have only one thing on their minds. Want a wiener?
There are some prize tomatoes in that tin can. I can feel it in my nuts. You and your nuts.
You kids think you own this beach. Think it's a teenage world. Well, you're dead wrong. Let me help you with that.
Have I been acting strange lately? Who do you have to get a hot dog in this dump?
What?
Soleado por la mañana al mediodía.
A surfer chick with a split personality. Should I unpack my bongos? I intend to unpack mine.
All right, guys, come on. That's enough. Ah! What the hell is that?
Help me.
I hate to say this, but I think our little chipper may be the butcher at Malibu Beach.
Strange that the victim had only one testicle stuffed in his mouth.
Well, that's because he only had one. Plenty of meat, but only one potato.
A little sex.
I believe this is what you young people call a gangbang.
A little sin.
I've been a bad boy.
Bad boys get spanked.
A little psycho.
Kiss my ass, monkey.
Party till you drop. Dead.
I hope you put some Bactina in that scratch.
Psycho beach party.
That's the most exciting story idea I've heard in years.
And welcome to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast. My name is Jesse, and I'll be your host. Now, on today's episode, we're going to cover a little movie from 2000, and we're heading out to the beach for this one, y'all. On today's episode, we're going to be covering a little film called Psycho Beach Party. I could not do this episode all by myself and alone. I had to bring on a guest with me. This guest actually did bring this movie with her, so I'm glad to be able to chop it up and talk about it. My guest today is a comedian, an author of the recent book, Isn't She Great? Women Led Comedies, From 9 to 5 to Booksmart, and also is one of the hosts of the film series, Isn't She Great? Which is done at the historic Hollywood Theater in Portland, Oregon. You may have also heard her recent podcast appearances on This Ends at Prom, where she did Freeway, one of the best Reese Witherspoon movies ever. You Are Good podcast, covering the underrated John Waters classic Pecker. And she was recently just on the Movies That Made Us Gay podcast with Scott and Pete, where she talked about miscongeniality. But I want to welcome to my show, the one, the only, Miss Elizabeth Teets. Elizabeth, hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm so good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Now, I want to ask real quick, because we were chopping it up a little bit before we started recording. Do you go by Elizabeth or do you go by Liz?
I never go by Liz.
Gotcha.
No.
I always want to ask that because I have a cousin named Elizabeth and I always called her my cousin Liz, and she never cared. So I always just like distinction of, can I call you Liz? Can I not? And so now I know to just call you Elizabeth. I will say one of my friends in college, her name was Elizabeth with an S, and I guess nobody ever called her Liz ever before. And we became very close and good friends, and I would always just call her Liz, and she never cared. She was fine with it. But like literally people were just like, wait, what? Like, why are you calling her that? I was like,
confusing.
what?
Yeah.
I was like,
I never
don't
thought
know.
of that before.
Yeah. And you were just like, how dare she spell her name with an S? Like, what in the heck? Like,
Well, I
it makes
guess
no sense.
Lisa does come out of Elizabeth.
Sure.
Which is just weird to think about. I don't know why that like makes my brain curdle.
I know it doesn't really make sense either. Like I'm still hung up on the fact of like how does Dick come from Richard? You know what I mean? Like I still don't get that ever. Whatever, I guess.
Yeah,
Who am I?
sure. I remember, yeah, same one with like Bill coming out of William, which I guess
know,
makes like
what?
slightly more sense. I'm like, but that's a different letter.
Exactly. You're just like, did I go to school for nothing? Like, really? Come on now.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Or the weirdest one I think is Peggy coming out of Margaret.
That is literally my mom's name, and same. I feel you on that. I'm just like, how does that happen? Like, what in the hell? It doesn't make any sense. Love you, Peggy.
And then
Hey,
everybody
girl.
agreed, like, yes, this is the proper nickname for this name.
100%. Or like you have like, or like, yeah, like Marge or something. I think that kind of comes out of Margaret, or like Maggie or something. It's just like, what the hell is going on with this? Anyway, this is not a names podcast or a nicknames podcast, but whatever. It's all good.
Sure.
But well, there is a nickname in this movie, though. I will say
There is.
Yes.
A pretty cool one, in my opinion. I would be stoked to get this
100%.
nickname.
Yes. But Elizabeth, I just wanted to ask you real quick. You know, I did give you like a list of like what I was going to be covering and all this, and it's like, hey, you choose from these or give me a suggestion. And when you told me Psycho Beach Party, I was like, oh my God, how did I not even think about that? Absolutely. So I want to know a little bit, like, what is your history with this film? You like, when did you first see it? You know, what made you kind of want to, you know, what made you want to come on and talk about it with little old me?
Sure. So this movie, I feel like I was introduced to it the same way a lot of millennials who spent too much time on the internet were, which is via Tumblr. I think specifically like the still of like Anne Bowman saying like, I'm not a girl, I'm a goddess, and the first thing I'm going to sacrifice is your balls.
Iconic. No notes.
Like I think that was like a super prominent Tumblr film still. I really miss film still Tumblr. I think it was like really formative for a lot of us. And then, you know, then you can't, the thing with Tumblr that I feel like is different than TikTok is when you're exposed to like a still on Tumblr, I feel like it's like such a little tease that you then have to like go watch the movie. But I feel with TikTok, you can just like watch the scene and be satisfied. So that's like something, I don't know, I sound like a million years old, but like I feel bad for the youth. I mean, maybe I'm not giving the youth enough credit. Like if they just got like a TikTok of just like a short scene about Anne Bowman, they would go watch all of Psycho Beach Party. Who knows? But that's definitely how I was exposed to it. So then of course I had to like find it and watch it. And then I would say that it's funny because like none of the films I've been doing podcasts on, with the exception of Miss Congeniality, are actually like mentioned in my book. I've just been like doing a little podcast tour to promote my book, and I've just been like, but these are other movies I enjoy. And so it was really important to me that I talk about this one. I also really think that horror comedy is such a good vehicle for women. Like I think the bulk of horror comedies are women led. I can't really think of like a horror comedy that's like led by a man other than that like Nick Cage Dracula movie.
That's fair. I mean, definitely. Like, I definitely think that, I mean, of course, something like Death Becomes Her like comes to mind, which, you know, I'm doing an episode on in July. Actually, I just recorded it actually, but it'll be coming out in July. But yeah, I totally agree. And then, yeah, like you were saying, like, I just think it's a good kind of vehicle for a woman-led movie, you know, to have a horror comedy, because why the hell not? It'd be cool. Even you could say, yeah,
horror and being a woman.
Right? You're just like, I live this every day, baby. Like, what are you talking about?
Or a queer woman. Yeah, like it's a fascinating experience. I feel like that's why the women and the queers, we own horror, you know?
100%. Yes, absolutely. You want to tell us a little bit more about your book in particular? I know you'll probably plug at the end, of course, but I haven't gotten my hands on a copy of it. I know you're also going to be, I think, going to different like bookstores around a little bit, doing a little like, hey, here's my book. Let's talk about it a little bit if you want. But I definitely want to hear, like, you know, yeah, what was the kind of genesis of doing that book? Because I'm all about like female-led movies in general, and especially when they're funny, that's always fun. But I'd love to hear about that.
Sure. So I have my film series of the same name, Isn't She Great? And so I've just been showing for the past, oh my gosh, 3-4 years. There's a pandemic in there. movies that I love that are just like my favorite. So Women Led Comedies specifically. So like Legally Blonde, Romeo and Michelle, which is a Eastwick, another great horror comedy, and just Hocus Pocus and Election, just any of these movies that I can just get in front of an audience. I've been really having a great time doing it, and showing the films is just interesting because I feel like so many people either come up to me after the show or just are in my life and are like, oh, I'm so glad you're showing this movie. This movie was so transformative for me for this reason, or like, it was the first time I like saw somebody be like unapologetically ambitious or like unapologetically feminine, or they just see a lot of themselves in these characters and empowers them. And I was like, wow, what if we put all of these into an essay, like an essay collection? And so I just was like, I'm going to do an anthology. And I just collected some of my favorite writers and then some writers that either approached me or submitted on submission of like their stories about their connection to these films. And we just put them all together. And it's really, really beautiful to be able to celebrate these films and then also just celebrate like women and their stories and their voices and like the transformative power of film.
Absolutely. Well said. I love that. Of course, you're the author, so it makes no sense. Or at least you're the editor of it. And it's kind of so I guess it's a collection of essays from different folks as well, it seems like.
Yeah. Yes, I'm in there. And then there's some other really, really amazing writers talking about their experience with the films. So you get a little bit of taste from different people and their experience with films. It's not all. I feel like if I wrote every essay in the book, it would be like,
I know, right? You're like,
he's so cool, like 100 times, but you get to hear like, oh, this movie really made me realize, this person made, like, this movie helped me with my gender identity, or this person helped me with my cultural religious identity, or this film helped me like realize what I want to be when I grow up. I feel like you watch these movies either when you're a kid or when you're in your early 20s or even like later, and you're like, okay, this isn't in the book, but I have a writer I'm helping right now who I'm helping her edit her essay. She wrote how like the movie 13 going on 30 helped her leave her like really abusive relationship, where she's like, I feel trapped just like Jenna feels trapped in her like 30-year-old life, and it's like time to go. So I just feel like film, even if it's not exactly the power of narrative for like just telling women's stories, like you're like, okay, they just trigger so much in our brains. And when you're just like used to seeing men who just don't speak to you, when you finally see someone speak to you, and it can really change things. And it's also funny, we talked about this a lot when I was on The Sins at Prom with Freeway, of just like the power of humor. Like we were talking about how if Freeway would have been like a drama, it would have not worked.
100%. Oh my God. Like it could not have that at all. But
like the story is incredibly like tragic and dramatic. But if it would have been like the story of like a teen killer, like that movie would have been unwatchable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is also a movie that we're about to talk about, is like the story of a teen killer. But like, can you imagine like this is a drama?
I know, right? Like, oh my God, that would have been crazy. Oh, thank God for people not taking anything seriously in this. Like, God.
Oh my God.
It would have been crazy. No, absolutely. Because like, yeah. And we were even talking a little bit before we got online, or before we started recording. Yeah. Like even something like Election, like sometimes it rubs people the wrong way a little bit. You know what I mean? It kind of depends, like, and, I think like a lot of these different movies, but I'm always of the, I was raised by a single mom, and, I have an older sister. So I've been around women a lot. And so for me, at least, like I've said this in a podcast before, probably back in April or May or something, but like I am so tired of just watching men doing a bunch of things in movies. That's so boring and passe at a point, honestly.
What are men even doing in life? Why do we need to watch them in a movie?
Like, I'm sorry. Like, it's true. Like, there's some stuff where I'm just like, why am I watching this, man? Like, what is going on? Like, I'd rather watch. That's why why I'm okay with like, yeah, like I want to watch women doing things being, you know, yeah, they can be likable, but I also want an unlikable woman, you know, that's always cool with me too. And also just like, I'm also okay with women's wrongs too. You know, I'm one that maybe doesn't love that Black Christmas remake from 2019, but I'm not mad at like these two women, you know, being able to write and direct this movie. It just didn't really do that anything for me, but you know, if it does something for other people, great. You know, and it's cool to even have that conversation of like, bro, we had somebody who was able to do this. Yeah, a woman was able to do this, and there's a whole lot to say about that Black Christmas 2019 remake because Jason Blum is a piece of shit. But you
I
know,
never saw it, so
yeah,
maybe I don't know. Now I'm like intrigued of like, should I watch it because it had I want to support ladies or should I not?
right.
We'll
I
see.
mean,
We'll see if
how
I
big
get
of a
around to
horror
it.
person are you?
I've been a pretty big horror person. I'm a big horror comedy person. I feel like I should like, and
Right,
my favorite genre of horror, other than like a straight up slasher,
right.
I like a straight up campy slasher. But I also love. Okay, I love two things. I love rock and roll is the villain.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah, but rock and roll is bad. That's a great genre. And for some reason, and I think it's probably because a lot of times they lead more into the whole like the comedy, but I also love cannibalism.
I mean, hey, like there's something about a cannibal movie. You're just like, I can get into this.
Oh, and I'm a recovering Catholic, so I definitely spent Good Friday this year watching Immaculate, and by the amount of laughter in the theater, I assume everybody else in the theater was a recovering Catholic as well.
Oh hell yeah, I love that. Like yeah. No, I think the thing about the Black Christmas remake, let's just say that Jason Blum of Blumhouse only gave Miss Sophia Takal, who's the director, only gave her about I think 3 or 4 months to shoot the movie. And this also came after him, I think, putting it on Twitter somewhere or another that there aren't really that many women, there aren't really any women horror directors. And then he got like, you know, raked over the coals for that. And then guess what? He hired a woman to do this remake of Black Christmas. So,
Okay,
you
so
know.
we won. We won in the long game, it sounds like.
Sure, yes. But then also it's like very much a PG-13 kind of horror movie, but I feel like it was made to be R a little bit and then it got cut up and you know, it's hit or miss for people. But again,
Okay.
but I'm also okay with the fact that like yes, this movie may have gotten like raked across the coals by fans and all this stuff, but I'm fine with that because like you still had she still got to do something cool, you know, and I also would venture to say I don't know Sophia Takal or anything, or April Wolf for that matter, but like I think she understands that like, yeah, I was put in a weird position anyway. So I did what I could. And I was like,
That's
you know
like
what, girl? There you go.
that is a thing in not only like the arts, but there's actually like this is to like go off into just some general feminism. Failing companies, a lot of times if they're looking to hire a new CEO and they're already failing,
Right.
will specifically hire a woman or a person of color. And then that puts either that like marginalized person in like a weird spot because maybe that's the only time they'll be offered like that title.
Right.
But they're gonna fail. So it's like, ooh, do I like get to be a CEO, but then I have like I failed as a CEO.
Right. You're kind of
So
like,
it's like yeah, so it's like because usually it's like by this point the company's so far gone, there's no way to save it.
right. So it's a sinking ship anyway.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, do I want to like captain the sinking ship so I can say like, oh, I've been a CEO, but then it's like, well, but your ship sunk. So
Right.
that's
So what is that reflection on you? Like, you know, yeah.
yeah, it's the world is just basically like setting us up in situations like that in every industry.
That's true. I mean, like, hey, you're living the experience, so I will take your word for it 100%. I think of myself as a feminist, so, but I see your point with
That's
that because it's true.
yeah, it's crazy.
It is. But happier times, happier fun things with Psycho Beach Party. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear, your history on it. I got that. My history with this is that you may be in, similarity, but I myself am a Lauren Ambrose stan account always and forever. Like, God, she is. I watched 6 Feet Under years ago because I'd always heard of it and I never watched it. So I finally watched it, and it's like one of my favorite shows ever. And I've watched it twice all the way through. She's just so fantastic as Claire. And I was also watching Yellow Jackets when it was coming out as well, and she's in the second season. So of course I pulled up on that. But when I realized that she was in this movie, or when I became familiar with this film, probably in 2022 sometime or something, I was like, oh, it's Lauren Ambrose? Hell yeah. Like, let's pull up on this. But then of course you have like other fun folks, like, you got one of the first roles, not Drop Dead Gorgeous, but this is one of the early role for Miss Amy Adams. You got Beth Broderick from Sabrina in here. Like, it's just like random stuff, and I'm just like, okay, like, let's pull up on this and check it. It wasn't until probably, I think it was 2023 last year, when it was I at least found it on Tubi, and I was able to pull up on it for the first time. I was like, let me pull up on this, and I'm glad I did. I still give it like a 3 out of 5, really. It's not like a 5-star movie for me. However, I'm willing to go up a little bit more. But I still love it though. Like, it's still something where I'm like all about it, but it's all good. Otherwise I wouldn't be talking about it today. I mean, shoot, like I do like this movie though.
Okay.
You're like,
I'm
listen.
I'm so interested why you're like, no, this is a 3. Okay, what is about it makes it a 3?
I think for me, at least, like, I do believe that everyone's committed to their roles, for sure. I think most of the main cast, knows what kind of movie they're in. I would assume so. There are some people, like, I don't know what Thomas Gibson is doing, to be honest with you. But I do think, like, Lauren Ambrose and, like, Beth Broderick know what kind of movie they're in. Obviously, Charles Busch knows what movies he's in, because they literally wrote this movie. It's literally their play. I think just like some of the budget constraints that they had, I think could just obviously show, which again, also just kind of like being a benefit for the movie, I feel like, because these beach movies, which we'll talk about, of course, like, they aren't high budget things anyway. But I don't know, it's just not something where it didn't like blow my mind when I first watched it. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing, but I did not dislike it or anything. But it's just like a solid 3.5 or something. Like, it's cool, I know that only explains so much about it, but it's a fun campy time. Like, I don't dislike this movie at all, but that is my reasoning for the 3 out of 5 review, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Obviously you're a much more of a fan or staunch defender of this movie, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
And that we'll talk about that today. We'll definitely talk about that, and just talk about, because we'll definitely talk about like what works in this film and what does not work. I'm sure there's a few things that don't, but that's all good. But yeah, as we normally do, we'll talk a little bit about the production of this movie, some of the figures of it, talk about the cast, try to dissect some themes going on here, talk about like, what our favorite scenes are, like what works and what doesn't, and just kind of the overall legacy this movie has. I do think that it does have one in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, I guess we'll move on to that. So this movie was released January 23rd of 2000. So pretty sure it was like a limited release type of gig. It's about 95 minutes. So it does get in, get out pretty easily, which is nice. This is a Strand release. So Strand Releasing did this movie, which makes enough sense because I feel like they've done other films that were based off of like theatrical plays, if I'm not mistaken. So it doesn't surprise me that Strand would be a part of it. And we're looking at a budget of about 1.5 million, which I guess really, when you think about it, might even be a little bit higher of a budget than some of those beach movies had. No? Maybe? I don't know. Like, yeah.
I think so. I don't know. I wish that I was like better at knowing budgets, but to me, every single, when it's like this movie cost 1 million, I'm like, that's a lot.
Right.
300 million. I'm like, that's a lot.
You're like, it's a lot of money for, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, totally.
For sure. This did come in on its opening weekend at 68 on Box Office Mojo, at least told me. Made about $21,000 its first weekend. And overall on that 1.5 million budget, it only made about $268,117. So, I mean, needless to say, this movie did not do well financially. However, it is a quote low budget, independent movie, so it's not that surprising that it would do those kinds of numbers either, because people are like, what the hell is this movie, huh?
Yeah.
So that's not shocking or anything.
Yeah, I feel like this movie, nobody thought that this movie was gonna like knock it out of the park.
Yeah, nobody was like, oh my god, they're gonna do this, like, because people
Mhm.
are like, what do you mean like a beach movie? I don't even understand what that is. So, or like, wait, why would you even do that? Like, this makes sense.
Yeah.
um Rotten Tomatoes wise, so in terms of critic and audience scores, we have a 54% from critics, from about 35 reviews, and then about a 66 from audiences with about 5,000 ratings. So people saying, I loved it, or I hated it, or whatever. So that's cool. And then on the Letterboxd, it's a 3.2 out of 5 from the voice of the people. People just say that they like it or not, or whatever.
Okay. I don't trust Rotten Tomatoes for movies about women
That's fair.
because they let straight men vote.
I mean, really, it's
There's
true.
not a filter, you guys.
No, it's true. And then also with Rotten Tomatoes too, it's always important to note that it's an aggregate of like reviews. So like, you're already going to have like the straight male perspective of these movies, which will already not be in its favor. So it's just like, and then also you're taking into consideration like at the time, reviews, and then you also have people who aren't even necessarily like, they could be journalists, but not that they necessarily are journalists, can also be Rotten Tomatoes critics. It could be that they have a YouTube channel or something, or whatever. So they're maybe more of a content creator than they are a legit journalist. Like they're not actually like working for a publication or something like that. Although, whatever. Again, the way I look at it is that you can be a journalist however you want to be, but generally that means that you have had some sort of published work going on at some sort of publication somewhere, and you have a portfolio, whatever. Who am I? But
This is like the thing is like if you were anyone else in my life, right? If like this person on Rotten Tomatoes, not you, was anyone
right.
else in my life right now, I'm like, if you're a journalist, if you say you're a journalist, but when it's like a Rotten Tomatoes, like, dude, bro, I'm like,
You're just like,
I'm gonna need to see a press pass.
right, you're gonna need to have something to kind of show me. Right.
Yeah, like what? So
Right. No, totally. It's very fair.
yeah.
And then so our cast and our crew of this movie, so we have Robert Lee King. He's the director of this movie. I would bank that he is probably some sort of homosexual, I would hope, at least. I don't know that for a fact, but something tells me.
Okay.
But
I have no idea.
yeah, that's just me speculating, I guess. Whatever, it's my show. But but I mean, it'd be shocking. I'd be like, wait, what? A straight man did this movie? Are you kidding me? Um, but he is really kind of known for this movie, honestly. This was so it was written by Charles Busch. We'll talk a little bit more about him in a minute. But he was also like, well, I just put in my notes. He's a playwright, drag queen extraordinaire. We'll talk about that a little bit as well. But yeah, this actually came from, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, but this movie came from I think it was off Broadway. I don't think it ever went to a Broadway stage, but it's an off Broadway play that was actually first titled Gidget Goes Psychotic, and then it was then turned into Psycho Beach Party. You can get this from Samuel French, I think, so that's fun.
They are doing a revival of it in Los Angeles, I think, starting in June, and I'm going, and I think
Oh hell yeah,
night. I'm very excited.
Oh, hell yeah. Hey, y'all. Editing Jesse here. Just wanted to pop in and tell you a little bit about the production that we were referring to during your episode. So that is actually being done at the Matrix Theater in Los Angeles, California. It actually, I think, opened June 14th of this month, but it's still going on for like another weekend. So I don't know if you could still get tickets for it, but please, go on Psycho Beach Party LA on Instagram and go and check out their Instagram with that, and then just see if you can get some tickets. The cast is kind of stacked in this, actually. So some of the cast is Drew Droege playing Chicklet. So super funny. He's from the Groundlings. They're known for like impressions of doing Chloe Sevigny and like Tanya Roberts and stuff. Like so super funny. So I'm sure they killed it as Chicklet. Sam Pancake playing the mom, Mrs. Forrest. So I don't know who's playing Monica in this movie, if there is even a Monica character in it. I don't know. Sam Pancake's super funny. So they are known for being on like Friends and like Will and Grace and like all sorts of different TV shows as a little guest star. And they also have a podcast of their own called the Saturday Morning Movie, where they talk about like TV movies from like the 70s and 80s and stuff. So that's super fun. Roz Hernandez is playing Bettina, and actually Chase Rosenberg is also playing Bettina. Chase is actually a new addition to the Groundling company. So super cool. Non-binary. Great for them. And then also Roz Hernandez, they are from Living for the Dead on Hulu, and is a stand-up comedian in the LA area. Karen Miyama actually is playing Kanaka in this production. They're from the Groundlings. They're a teacher at the Groundlings. They've been around forever. They came up with like Julia Sweeney and Lisa Kudrow and Kathy Griffin and all this stuff. They've been in like a bunch of TV shows. They were in like Pulp Fiction, a couple different little random movies. So super cool. Pete Zayas is actually playing Marvel Ann. So we got a person in drag in this role. They've done a bunch of like theater in LA. They're part of the Groundlings as well. Thomas Hobson is playing Starcat in this production as well. So they're actually from the Fresh Beat Band on Nick Jr., and they were also on a show called That Girl Lele on Nickelodeon. But for horror fans, you may know him as one of the orderlies in the movie 12 Hour Shift, if you've seen that from Brea Grant. Excellent movie. You should check it out. But yeah, he's in there too, and he's actually in there with his Fresh Beat Band member Tara, who plays like one of the nursing assistants, which is so super cool. Daniel Montgomery is actually playing Provolone in this production. He's one half of the Terror Twins, or the Montgomery Twins, where they have the Welcome to Deadcast podcast, where they talk about Goosebumps, the TV show, and like the books and stuff like that. And they just did the Jessica Cabin, which is a queer ghost story that you might still be able to find on Prime. So pull up on there. Adrian Gonzalez is playing Yo-Yo. So they're from like Superstore and like NCIS and NCIS LA. So super cool they've been able to do this. And then Danielle Gaither, who most of you may know from being from Mad TV, she is also in this as Berdine. And then we also have our swings in Harrison Maloney and Michael P. McDonald. Harrison is doing Provolone and Yo-Yo, and then Michael McDonald is doing Marvel and Starcat, and is also playing a part called Nikki. For those who don't know, swings are like people who are in like the ensemble of the show, but they can also do like all sorts of different parts. They have like the hardest job in theater ever, and my hats go off to them. But yeah, that's a little bit about the cast of this production in LA. But yeah, if you're in the area, please, go and check them out. Hopefully it was super fun. And yeah, but with all that being said, let's get back to our show. If anything, I'm happy that this is getting a revival. I'm also happy, like I said, that Reefer Madness is getting a revival as well. That'll be really fun. So good for these like weird movies getting revivals and shit. Good for them.
They do. I think I would way rather, like, I know maybe I'm like setting up my future to be terrible, but like if I made a movie, my desire for it to be like medium good, people liked it, versus like everyone was like, that was like an armpit, and then like 20 years later, everyone was like, actually, this was way ahead of its time and totally like will rock your world. I would way rather be like in that world, in that camp. I think that sounds way more exciting.
That's fair. It's very fair.
Yeah.
Then some of the other people that are in this. So Ben Vaughn is our composer of this film. He's really only known for this movie, so that's composer. Cinematographer, we have Arturo Smith. The only other movie that I saw of note that he did was a little movie, and it's one of my favorite Greg Araki movies, was Nowhere. Have you ever seen a Greg Rocky movie? I'm assuming you may have, but have you ever seen like Nowhere or anything?
No, I haven't.
You haven't seen any Greg Rocky movie ever?
I don't think so. I'm looking.
Nice, nice. So one of the big ones that is there is the Doom Generation that has Rose McGowan in it, and Jonathan Schaech. You also have Mysterious Skin. Be careful with that one.
Am I gonna lose my gay card? I haven't seen it.
You're not. I'm not gonna let them. But Mysterious Skin is like my favorite. It is about CSA. So that's not fun, but it is so beautifully done, and I think it was very fantastic. It has Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Brady Corbett, Elizabeth Shue's there. It's a whole thing. It's great.
And it's also about aliens?
Yeah, kind of, sort of. It's a little bit, yeah. One of the boys thinks that he was abducted by aliens when he was a kid, and the other one is a gay hustler. They all live in Kansas. It's a fantastic movie. The Horror Queers just did it, actually. They just covered it. So, again, heartbreaking and really a hard watch for some folks, but I thought it was very well done, and it's one of my favorites. So,
okay, I'm excited.
Yeah, as excited as you can be.
Yeah, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't say that.
No. It's fun to challenging cinema is always my bag. Like, I'm down to watch something that'll challenge me or disturb me. So that one could definitely fall under that. So, I mean, I'm down for it. So I feel what you're saying. I got you. Greg Rocky's awesome and I love him. So yeah, but Nowhere is like it's a fun little one. Actually, I'll talk about one of the other actors, but they were also in Nowhere as well. So that was fun. But yeah, let me see if there's anybody else in particular. Yeah, not really any other like crazy notable people in the crew that I can think of. Again, this is a small little movie, so it's not like we have a ton to go off of, but yeah, there's that. And then in terms of our cast, as we already stated, we have Lauren Ambrose in the role of Florence/Chicklet, who is iconic. She is Servant? Oh, did I watch Servant? What is that? I've heard of it though, but I haven't watched it.
Oh, it's like a creepy, mostly kind of horror, also kind of comedy television show that was on Apple TV.
I have not watched it.
The first season, it's great. The second season, I don't think they thought they were going to get one.
And it shows, damn.
Yeah, it's M. Night Shyamalan. So if you're into that kind of stuff, I really, really liked the first season.
Nice, love that.
Recommend.
Hell yeah, I'm down with that.
She's the lead, and talk about unlikable women. Wow.
I mean, hey, listen, like I'm all down for that. Like that sounds right up my alley and somewhere you can find me.
Okay.
For sure. Then we have Thomas Gibson as the Great Kanaka, or I guess Kanaka is fine. He is from I guess Eyes Wide Shut is something he's known from. I've never seen that movie ever in my life. All I know is that Nicole Kidman is doing sex stuff, I guess. Is Tom Cruise in that movie, or am I imagining him in that movie?
I feel like he is, but I also have never seen it.
Me either. It's like Stanley Kubrick's last film, and I was like, okay, like, all right, whatever, like, fine. Yeah, he was also in the Flintstones and Viva Rock's Vegas. I don't know who he plays in that movie, but I just love that he's in the little Flintstone sequel that nobody asked for. But it's
I don't
fine.
think this is the only movie I can ever think about him being in, because I just think about him as like a television star.
Yeah, true. Because what else was he? What was he on TV? Like, what did he do? I'm trying to remember. My God.
Okay, so I know him from being in Dharma and Greg.
Oh, yes.
I'm like definitely dating myself, but I feel like most people know him from being in Criminal Minds.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. You know what's funny about Dharma and Greg? Oh my God, Elizabeth, that's so funny. Because, okay, Thomas Gibson, he was on Dharma and Greg, I guess. Have you ever heard of the Disney Channel original movie, Teen Beach Movie?
No.
Okay, we're going to talk about that. Because I would check it out because it's a Disney Channel original movie, and you already know you're going to get some craziness, but I think Dharma is actually in that little Teen Beach movie on Disney, which I think is really funny. Like, I just love that that's like a weird overlap. They have both been in these like teen beach movie things or whatever. I just think that's really silly.
Yeah, that is super silly. Dharma and Greg, it feels like that show is on way longer than it was. Like, for some reason in my brain, like I'm like Dharma and Greg is in like the same wheelhouse as like Will and Grace and everything, but it was only on 5 years.
Oh,
But I guess
I'm wrong. Wait a minute. I am so wrong. I get Dharma and Greg and Two Guys in a Pizza Place or whatever mixed up. So that chick is from Two Guys in a Pizza Place or Two Guys and a Girl or whatever. But still, they're in the similar universe for me though.
oh yeah, 90s sitcom, your mom is ignoring you. Like
100%. Yes. No, completely. No, but no, still, I think it's very funny that like both of those like shows, they both had that. So I really did just put her as Dharma. I really did. Wait, who was Dharma though? This is not a Dharma and Greg podcast, but you know what? It could be.
This is just never mind. We're no longer talking about Psycho Beach Party. We're
Never mind.
Dharma and Greg. Her name was Jenna Elfman.
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah.
That's unfortunate because she is a Scientologist. Oh
Gosh. So I am so proud of myself because I've been unemployed while living in Los Angeles and I have not become a Scientologist. And I feel like I should win an award for that.
Oh, you know what? Listen, I give you a lot of the points for not going over to that. Although I wish you best on your job hunt, baby. Like, I mean, I really
I have a job now, but I feel like that
Thank
should
God.
be like a thing Los Angeles County has to do is like when you fill out your like unemployment application that you should also get some like how to like not become a Scientologist training.
It's either that or you get the little cans or something. You can also get those too, you know.
Yeah, you get like a 30-minute like info video of how to not join a cult.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. I was pretty much just saying like they just give you the audit session. They're just like, here you go. Like, okay.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine? Oh my God. Ugh.
So many people I know go and get audited as like I guess it's like it's like, it's like taking the TMZ tour. It's like an LA experience. And
I mean, honestly, I probably would too. Why not? Like, fuck it.
The like older I get, the more I realize I'm actually like more suggestible than I think. I think we all think we're like, oh, I would never fall for that. And
right.
Like part of my maturing is like, no, I'm like dumb sometimes.
You're just like, wait a minute. Like, I think this actually sounds kind of good. Like,
it's like the people who are like, think that they won't fall for like the you should buy a timeshare thing. I'm like, I'm not gonna go to that meeting for a free whatever because I will leave with a timeshare on accident.
I'm just saying, like, I know myself.
I do know myself.
Oh gosh. Anyway, back to our movie though. So we then have Marvel Ann, who's played by Amy Adams, who honestly
Good.
Oh God, I just love an Amy Adams. Really, she's so wonderful. Like it's this and Drop Dead Gorgeous are like early roles for her. I think she did really fantastic in the movie Doubt with Meryl Streep and Philip Seymour Hoffman and Viola Davis. Very very good movie.
That's your ultimate Amy Adams role?
It's not like my ultimate, but I think she did really good in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also think Doubt is a good movie, but they're just if I'm thinking like this is the movie that Amy Adams really excelled for me. I guess I'm not thinking about Doubt.
I'm trying to think. Like maybe I think she's really fun in Drop Dead Gorgeous.
I think she's super. I love a comedy Amy Adams.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. I like her the best when she's being confused for Isla Fisher. That's what I think she
love that. Love that. She could have absolutely been in those Scooby-Doo movies. It would have worked. 100%.
Yeah, nobody would have known the difference.
Not at all. Of course, 100%. Then we have Nicholas Brendon, who is mostly known as Xander from Buffy. I have only watched like the first half of the season of Buffy. Like I'm not the Buffy girl, so sorry, but who knows? We'll see. Maybe I'll keep at it. But he's okay.
It's about to be summer. You can kick it off with some Buffy.
Yeah, that'd be
that's
fun.
A summer show. Even though
for sure.
About school.
Oh wow. Yeah, it's true. And then also he was in Coherent. Do you know what Coherence is? Do you know what that little movie is? You ever heard of it?
No.
So it's like this weird, like kind of different dimension kind of movie thing going on. These people who go to like a little dinner party thing or whatever, and they end up getting like, yeah, it's really fucking weird. And it's like also all improvised pretty much. Like I don't think there was an actual script for the film. It was all done by these folks, and it's a trippy little watch, if anything. I would at least recommend it, and then you'll be like, what the fuck is this movie? But hey, that could be fun. That could be a good time.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
down. I
Yeah,
love
do
being
it.
confused.
Absolutely. It'll leave you that way. So they have Matt Kessler or Kiesler, I guess, as what's his name? Sven or something like that. Something Swedish. Because he has like a Swedish accent going on. Lars is
If
his
it's,
name.
I was gonna say, if it's not Sven, it like could be.
It very well could be though.
Yeah.
He is from Scream 3, of course. And also he has been waiting for Guffman. He is also no longer an actor. He is actually, I believe, a like physician's assistant. So it's like, that's good for him. He was like, screw this acting thing. I'm not going to do that. So
I've seen like three, as I've been doing like film research lately, like three people who are like, oh, actually it was for this movie. The lady who Bettina is married to quit and became a doctor.
I love
Or
that.
not the lady, the man Bettina is married to quit and became a doctor. Is she married to this guy? And did I miss that? Or is this like a different doctor?
Oh, I don't know. Was Bettina married in this movie?
No, in real life, Kimberly Davies is married to, yeah, she's married to a model turned doctor named Jason Harvey.
I love that for him, honestly. Good for him. Like he
I
should.
would be married to actually, like I would not marry a doctor. To me, medical doctor is a red flag if you're a man.
Yeah,
But
sure. I worked in a hospital, so yes.
I like the idea of model turned doctor
I do
for
too.
someone else, not me.
Yeah, I do too. I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is he is an instructor of urology at the Oregon. You were just like, how dare you say Oregon like that, Jesse?
I
What in the
literally was about to call you out on that. I was like, did you just say Oregon?
I might have. But yes, he is an instructor of urology at the Oregon Health and Science University School of Medicine. Matt Kiesler is. And
Okay.
yeah, he was pretty much like, yeah, I don't have much of a career right now, so I'm gonna go to community college and like go get a biology degree and then go be a PA. I was like, good for you. Good
Yeah, that's great.
for you. Like, that's awesome. Because actors are crazy a little bit. They're wonderful, but they're crazy. And then also Beth Broderick, who is just MVP of this movie in a way. Like she is so fantastic in it. She plays Florence's mom, and everyone knows her for Sabrina. I feel bad for her in that way. Not really, but like I'm just like, yeah, girl, you're only gonna be known as Aunt Zelda, and you know what? That's not the worst lot in life ever. Like honestly,
I like as I mean, I'm a huge fan of Caroline Rhea, but like that is my actually like ultimate comedy like aspiration is I
Fair.
just want to like have my own voice, be really cool, and then have like a cool role I'm known for that's not like a lead where people think I actually am that person. Like I feel like people think Melissa Joan Hart is Sabrina.
Right.
But if you're like one of the aunts, like if they meet you, they're not like, ah. But
Yeah.
like you get to wear the cool outfits. They wear those ants wear the coolest outfits throughout the
I
entire
know.
show.
They really did. They had such good
Yeah.
outfits. Her outfits in this movie are really good too. Like, oh my God. Like
Yeah.
fantastic.
She really, I don't know, whatever agent she had was like, even though it's like, she's supposed to be playing this woman in her 40s, they're never like, let's put her in like, a muumuu. They're always like, let's put her in like a miniskirt and like a fur trim something.
Yeah, literally. They're just like, let's make her hot. I'm like,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like, let's do it. Sounds like a
Yeah.
great plan. Like,
Yeah.
wonderful. So yeah, is there anybody else in the cast that you wanted to like kind of shout out or anything like that kind of like, I don't know, tickled your fancy or anything like that wanted to kind of put. Oh, also Charles Busch is in this movie. I already said that, but
Yeah.
playing Monica Stark.
Yeah, and truly, like, way to be the star of your own film.
Truly. Like truly.
Way to like really like, even though Josh Busch doesn't like play the lead or anything, but just like come in, rock everyone's world,
I know.
go out. Like just
Like honestly, it's so good. Queen shit.
Yeah.
Like like the thing that takes me out in this movie, and I'm sure we'll talk about some of the scenes in it. The thing that takes me out in this movie is when Monica Stark is talking about how she and Kanaka, or whoever, I think it was Kanaka, that they at one point like had a sexual like relationship and all this, and like they were having sex in like the car or whatever, and it's just like a full on like woman like, you know, who is like topless and like she's in there, and then I'm like, okay, bitch, like that's how you do it. I love that. Good for you. Like, sell the fantasy. I love it. It's great. Like,
Wait, you're telling me that wasn't real? Are you sure?
I mean, listen, like, you're telling me that wasn't Charles Busch right there, right then? Okay.
I think it was.
I mean, maybe. Like, who knows? Who am I? I just watched this like 2 days ago. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you're telling me that she does not have this voluptuous body, you know? Are you kidding me?
I believe
Like,
those are her breasts.
probably. Oh God. It's just like the camp of this movie is just, it's very well done, I feel like. I guess if anything, like Kathleen Robertson, like she's fun. She plays the wheelchair mean girl, which is, you know.
This movie is like an ally to the disability community. And
It really is.
like, let's give a character who's a chair user like an actual role rather than like their whole personality be chair user.
Literally. And also just like make her a bitch. And I love that. Good for her. Like,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I haven't seen this movie or anything, but there's another Greg Rocky movie you could try to add to your list called Splendor. It's about Kathleen Robinson and two other people having like a throuple. That could be fun to watch. Who knows?
Okay. I'm pro throuple.
Yeah.
As long as I'm not in it.
You're just like, I'll watch from afar, you know, and you do you know, it's fine.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, I will also say, like, I do like some of the guys in this. They all are kind of like, you know, not all of them, but like, you know, the gay ones at least. I like them. They're fun. Nathan Bexton's one of the ones. I think he's the guy who he only had one ball or something and he gets killed with like, yeah.
I
But
know, like they're killing people with like physical imperfections, but how did like Lars know he didn't have both balls?
this is what I want to know. I'm just like, wait a minute, how did this happen?
Yeah.
Right. But Nathan Bexton was the one who was in Nowhere. He was one of the friends in that movie from James Duvall. So yeah. And then also shout out, we were just talking about election before we hopped on the call. The counter boy at the beginning of this movie was also an election, Mr. Nicholas D'Augusto. Good for you, Boo.
Aww,
good for you.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's like another thing I think would be fun as like an actor. And you know, this is my calling because this could still happen. I do live in Los Angeles, but it would be very fun to have like bit parts in a bunch of really iconic movies.
I know, just like put yourself in there and just be like, hey.
Hey.
Listen, what was the one? I think I just heard you on one of the I just heard you on Pecker on You Are Good for Pecker, and I think it was that like, hey, whenever that John Waters movie starts to shoot, like let me know. I'll come to you guys. It's fine.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, I'm saying this on as many times as I can, but when John Waters makes Liar Mouth, I am available.
I am available and I am willing to travel to the East Coast to Maryland. Thank you very much.
I'm available and I'm available to do take any direction to do anything John says. Like, you know.
I will do craft services. I will do anything to be on that movie. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Like, understood 100%. I get it. Like, yeah, I would also do that too, especially since I'm in Baltimore. So it makes enough sense. But yeah, so that's a little bit about our cast, though. Just a little bit about like, you know, just some fun little things about this film. So as we stated already, this was based off of a stage play from Charles Busch. He did have the self-awareness to not cast himself as Chicklet. But actually Chicklet, Florence slash Chicklet, and then Marvel Ann in the stage play are actually played by people in drag. But they were like, yeah, no, we don't have to do that. We could just like have cis women do that and that's fine. And you know, good for them. Great. Love it.
They got to help launch two really important careers.
100%.
Which is the most gay thing you possibly can do, is launch the career of an actress.
Like, really, it's lovely. Love that. This movie was shot in about 3 weeks all over, Los Angeles, obviously. And some of the places that they had to do were like, I think they had to like shoot some of the reshoots of this movie like in like a parking lot of like where they were editing the movie, because they were like, this is a low budget movie, man. We don't have much to go off of here. Like, we only have so much resources, which makes no sense. Amy Adams apparently did not really like the scene where Marvel Ann gets her bikini bottoms ripped off. She understood why it was happening, but she was just like, yeah, no, I didn't like that very much. I understand, Amy. I get it. Like, why? But okay. Like,
I would also not enjoy that very much.
Yeah,
I think that's, and I'm not exactly sure when intimacy coordinators became like a thing on film sets.
right.
And I don't think this movie could have afforded one anyway.
Probably not. Yeah, I mean, intimacy coordinators, like, not that I'm a filmmaker or on films at all, but like, I think it kind of depends, I guess, on if you feel like you can't deal with those kinds of scenes yourself as a director, but whatever, I guess. I think if you're a decent enough director, you can kind of handle those sorts of scenes with a level of tact and grace. But
strong disagree, Jesse, my friend.
You don't?
Because
that's fair.
No, I don't trust men.
Okay. No, that's fair.
Absolutely
that's fair.
Not. I think that's why we have intimacy coordinators, is because so many times directors have proven time and time again that they think they can handle it, but they cannot.
That's fair. That's a fair point too. I think all could be true at the same time too, but
totally. I think if we had like a really cool, self-aware person, but I don't feel like people who direct movies.
Yeah. That's the minority of it. Yeah.
Fall into that category.
They unfortunately don't, I think. I'm sure there are some cool people, like there's some decent humans that are men that can do that, but some of them are just like big babies masquerading as men, I think, like grown men. Like, honestly.
Some of our favorite boys, we then find out, were not super chill to work for. So
yeah, true. But yeah, I mean, I think that's really everything I could think about this film, or in terms of any sort of fun facts or whatever. But Elizabeth, I have a little bit of a task for you today.
Great.
Yes. So my task for you is, if you had to like tell somebody what this film is about, Psycho Beach Party, how would you describe this film? Like, what would be your like elevator pitch for it?
It is about a young girl who just desperately wants to fit in, making some friends on the beach, only to discover that she has multitudes inside of her in the form of personalities, and keeps blacking out and wondering if she had anything to do with a series of murders.
That's fair. That's a good, kind of summation of what this is about. Yeah, a gripping portrayal of a woman with DID, I guess, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I also, if I was describing it as a friend, I would be like, oh, it's a horror comedy on the beach.
Absolutely, 100%, yes.
Yeah, they just took horror comedy, and instead of putting it in, I feel like most horror comedies exist in like either small town or mansion.
Right.
Those are the two locations for horror comedies. Or if you're Witches of Eastwick, both.
100%, yes.
A mansion within a small town.
Right.
They're like, but they just took a horror comedy and they put it on the beach.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what they did. Yeah. So a little bit about, to talk a little bit about Psycho Beach Party as a whole, I think we do have to talk a little bit. We already mentioned a little bit earlier. So this is very much a parody of, it's a parody of 1950s, like psychodramas. So in the ilk of something like, I don't know, like, maybe some of the Alfred Hitchcock movies that were around, or any of those ones, but also like 1960s beach movies and also 1980s slasher films. So it's kind of an amalgamation of all three of those different things. So I think it's important to note, or it's important to talk about what exactly is a beach movie. So I guess I don't know if you are an expert on this. I maybe not. But if you had to like think like what is a beach movie, how would you describe what a beach movie is, I guess? Like what do you think when you think of that?
Beach. So I have a lot of familiarity, as we were kind of talking about before we started recording, with like
Mhm.
movies that take place on the beach. I'm just not a beach gal. I lived in Los Angeles almost 3 years. I haven't even been to the beach. So I think that I would say like a beach movie, it has like, I feel like the big thing is that there's like the beautiful people and then there's like the outsiders.
Mhm.
People who don't feel comfortable in swimsuits is like a big part of a beach movie, which I feel like this movie has. I mean, Chicklet doesn't, I mean, she looks fine in a swimsuit, but she doesn't feel like as beautiful as Marble Ann.
Right.
And then another thing like the beach movie has is like, I feel like there's always like some element of like sex comedy.
Yeah, I would also say that too. It's innuendo laden for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. I think when I think of beach movie, I think of like, yeah, like a kind of surfer culture being on display. I also think of like a lot of people gyrating, a lot of people in swimsuits gyrating.
Definitely. And then a lot of people eating hot dogs and having sodies.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. I also think of like maybe like a little bit of like a musical number. The fact that this does not have a musical number, it is shocking to me.
Oh my goodness. Like, you're so right. That is like a thing, especially at the luau.
Oh, 100%. Like 100%. That's why you should watch Teen Beach Movie, because then they have all the musical numbers.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think that's what you think of when you think of a beach movie. The beach movie in particular, though, is an American film genre of feature films that were mostly done from 1963 to 1968. And it was kind of, I guess, quote, created by American International Pictures, which was, so if we think a little bit about this, so, when we're talking about like teenagers as a whole, right? In the starting after World War II, you have a bunch of stuff happening in America. So you have men coming back from war, women who had entered the workforce, but now had to be put back into these domestic roles because now the men are back, and women are like, oh, I don't like this. What the hell?
Back. I'm still unclear on that.
You're just like, why do we even let them in the country? What the fuck, man? Like, I don't know. Like, but yeah, and then that kind of gives us the 1950s as this time of everything needs to look good on the surface. Everyone needs to stay within, everyone needs to have their ducks in a row. They all need to look the same. Everyone needs to, act the same, right? When the underbelly of that really is that there's a lot of, undiagnosed PTSD, a lot of spousal abuse and alcoholism,
women taking tranquilizers.
Yup. Speed, women taking speed to kind of, also have that, and then as a result of this, you then have kind of these juvenile delinquent films that come out, right? You have like Rebel Without a Cause, and you have like the movies of like with Mamie Van Doren in them, and Marlon Brando, and like these different folks who it's showing like this juvenile delinquent, this lifestyle, right? So I think if anything, you have that, and then but teenagers were then seen as like a viable category to market to. And
pocket money for the first time. And we wanted that pocket money.
They wanted that money. And so that's why you have those things. And then, I think if anything, you then have like the rise of something like the Mickey Mouse Club a little bit. That was back in the day. You have like the Disneyland opening up in 1955. You have the Mickey Mouse Club on television, where you have like teens and tweens and preteens watching that probably, but then they turn into teenagers in the 60s, and so what do? You take Frankie Avalon and Annette Funicello and you throw them into a movie that is about them going to the beach and their friends being at the beach too. Like, makes enough sense. Yeah, and that's really where it came from. I think American International Pictures really was just trying to capitalize on that. So as you already stated, like these are generally comedies. The core elements of these films has a group of teenagers or at least college age characters as the protagonists, non-parental adult characters as the antagonists, and or comic relief, silly, simple storylines that avoid any sort of like sober social consciousness. So, you know, teen trends also and interests. So things like surfing, dancing, drag racing, custom cars, irresponsible drinking, things like that. Simple romantic arcs that you don't have to think about too much. Original songs normally as well that are also diegetic and non-diegetic, I think. And also teen-oriented musical acts as well, sometimes performing as themselves. And then also a lot of tongue-in-cheek attitude and like little, you know, fun little quips and stuff like that, you know, in these films. So that's kind of the basic idea of what a beach movie is. And like I just watched I watched at least 45 minutes of Beach Blanket Bingo.
Okay.
In that movie, well, it's about Frankie and Dee Dee is her name. They're going to the beach, and you know, there's some bikers, there's some skydiving going on. There's also a mermaid subplot in there somewhere. Yeah, one of the guys falls in love with a lady in the sea, and she ends up being a mermaid. There's some bikers, like I said. Don Rickles is there.
Good for him. Glad he's getting booked.
Like he just. Oh wait. Also, Paul Lind is there. Oh my God! Like Paul Lind. Like what the hell? Like. Oh my gosh. I will say, I will tease at least at some point or another. Elizabeth will be back on the show to cover a little movie from around the 60s, 70s. Okay. And we're not going to say what, but
okay, I'm excited though.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. But I feel like if anything, Elizabeth, I think you should definitely pull up on a beach movie or two, because I feel like if you like that film, like you might get something out of these like kind of sillier films. Again, a lot of people gyrating, just like having fun.
I feel like the movie we're alluding to though also does have some like beach. At least I can think of one beach.
Oh yeah, it's in there. It's there, you know, for sure. Yeah,
definitely.
It's like a house that's like near a beach, so it makes enough sense. Yeah. There you go. Now the internet sleuths have to do their jobs, you know?
Yeah. You just named like a million films.
Literally, for sure. But yeah, I mean, but yeah, that's a little bit about what beach movies are. But then in this movie in particular, Charles Busch, as I already stated, like he's a drag performer, but also just like, you know, a playwright in general. I saw this on YouTube, I think, but like, as we already stated, like he was a playwright, and so he did the show Vampire Lesbians of Sodom or something was one of his shows that he did that kind of gained some popularity, which was interesting. Then he then kind of got the idea because he grew up with, I think, watching these beach movies or being aware of them, and also things like Gidget, which had Sandra Dee in it, and then also had the TV show with Sally Field in it. So you have the idea of like, oh, well, what would happen if Gidget went crazy and then didn't realize that she was going like in and out of like her different personalities and was like wasn't aware that she was killing people, I guess. And that's where Gidget Goes Psycho kind of came from, really. So that was such a
simple concept that does so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just kind of been one of those films, as you already stated, there is going to be an LA like revival of it. Different cities have done this show as well, I'm sure. So it's always just kind of a fun little thing to have. And then I think they just decided like, hey, I don't think there's any sort of revelation of like, hey, how did this exact film come to be? I think it was really just like, well, we finally got around to trying to make the movie. Like, let's do it. And as I kind of stated earlier, Charles Busch at least had the wherewithal to be like, wow, I'm a little bit older now. And I probably shouldn't play one of the teenagers. I should probably be the police officer, which does fabulously. And then,
like anyway, it could have been fine.
Right. You're like, no, it could have worked.
I feel like it could have.
Yeah, maybe. But
maybe I'm just a Charles Busch apologist, where I'm like, it would be fun.
Right. But I do think this is like an interesting little film with like just the people in roles or people in a role before they would like be bigger, if you will. You had some folks like people would have known who like Nicholas Brendon was, if they're Buffy people, or like if you're a 90210 girly, you maybe would have known who Kathleen Robertson was or something, or obviously, if you were a Sabrina fan, you'd know who Beth Broderick is, or you'd be aware of her at least. But for people like Lauren Ambrose and also like Amy Adams, like definitely was kind of a springboard for them. You know, even though really you can argue that Can't Hardly Wait was kind of a springboard for Lauren Ambrose, but I think really 6 Feet Under was that for her, honestly. But this predates that. So I just think that's really interesting. And, you know, it's a good time, if anything. And it's also unabashedly queer. Of course, you have Monica Stark being played by a drag queen, but also you have like the undercover gay like people. Everyone in this movie is gay. Like, really, they're all queer. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Like, you know,
As it should be.
As it should be. Yeah. Like Bettina, no, sorry, Bernadine, that's her name. Like she's in love with like Florence pretty much. I love that one scene where like she literally is just like wants to kiss her, and then she's like,
yeah.
oh, never mind.
You should
Yeah.
not kiss people who work for you. That's
No.
not nice.
Yeah, it's not nice. Don't do that. But yeah, it kind of, you know, yeah, it's just like an interesting little thing for that. But I guess if anything, like, do you have any particular like standout scenes of this movie that, you know, you kind of want to highlight and talk about that you kind of have in your brain?
I always have all the diner scenes in my brain. I'm just like a sucker for a diner scene. Really, I could go to a diner right now. Maybe I will. And
Absolutely should.
yeah. The other really like main scene, we don't get a musical number, but I feel like we get a lot of really good like dancing. Anything with Amy Adams in this movie, she crushes it so hard. Like I think if you watch this and Drop Dead Gorgeous, it should be pretty obvious that she's gonna be like a huge star.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
She's just stealing every scene from everyone else. Like all eyes on her in both of those movies.
Yeah, like literally. I mean, yeah, no, it's definitely it's hard not to just pay attention to her and want more of her. Not saying she should have been chick lit or anything, because I think Lauren Ambrose was fantastic, but yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think Lauren Ambrose did an amazing job as chick lit. I don't know how Amy Adams would have done. She's funny and she's like clearly a great actress, but I just don't think it would have had like the same impact as Lauren Ambrose's chick lit.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I also think just like the idea that like, yeah, you have this girl who doesn't realize that she has these different personalities, these multiple personalities, but also like the fact that the killer of this movie is targeting people who are imperfect. And like that's just really interesting to me, like how it's like, yeah, this is like why everyone's getting killed, and you're just like, oh, okay then. Like that's something I've never really seen before necessarily, you know, and it's kind of worth talking about for that, you know, and saying like, hey, yeah, that's something that I never saw before. Like it's interesting weird motive.
In the context because it's like a very eugenics like mindset, and so it's like very interesting if like this movie is historically referencing these like post-war films, and then also this movie is full of queer people.
Yeah, totally.
Like a eugenics killer.
Yeah, totally. And also too,
this cast is very white, so it's
yes. Yeah. And I think if anything, like it's supposed to kind of be that way, I guess. Like, yeah, but it makes the point to be like, yeah, there is this like killer that is kind of having this like slant on eugenics and being like, yes, we need to like keep everyone perfect. But the unfortunate thing is that a lot of those beach movies were very Caucasian. So it's not untrue, I guess. But yeah, like, you know, because of course no black people ever went to the beach apparently, like in the 60s, but
absolutely not.
What do I know? Like, although you have an Asian person here and there in one of those beach movies, I think it happens, but like, nope, not in this movie. Nope, not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think if anything, I would say like some favorite scenes of mine though. I mean, like, do you like the beginning of the movie where you see like the drive-in theater, you see the Bettina Barnes
Yes.
film. It's like the film within the film, but then also like you see just them like you kind of get like the setup very quickly on some of the characters a little bit, but then also like you have the first murder of the film as well. So I always can get into that kind of a thing. Really,
This movie
any sort.
definitely is great at locations where it's like drive-in,
Yeah.
beach, diner, and then
Yeah.
party.
And then house on the beach. And then, yeah. It's good times. Yeah, I would definitely say that. I would also say I do like the luau scene as well. That's always very fun. Really, anytime that like Chicklet goes into a different personality, I think is very like fun. Obviously, being Anne Bowman, who is kind of like a dominatrix woman, like I guess personality alter, if you will. I'm down with that. I could go without the kind of like quasi black scent that happens in this movie from her, but
her third personality that we never really know why it's there.
yeah, you're just kind of like, huh, okay, that's a little weird. Everything else kind of made sense, but I was just like, huh, what are we doing there? But all right, we just gotta walk past that, just like, all right, we're just gonna pretend that didn't happen. Yeah, but really any of the scenes with Beth Broderick in them, I mean, obviously, like, of course I'm gonna love those because I'm just like, she's fantastic. She knows what kind of movie she's in. It's great. Like, and then I will say like the ending too, like, the scene's also like in Bettina's house on the beach and stuff, because you get that little bit of like a kind of spooky vibe, if you will. I'm down for that as well. And then, of course, just the ending of this movie where, spoiler alert for anybody listening, like Lars, who is Matt Kiesler, he is also Larry. And Larry was Bettina's house is, I guess, haunted by this family of people who were murdered by their son. And it ends up being that son is actually Lars.
They figured it out because they have
yeah.
an old picture of him and they draw glasses on him.
Yup. And he looks exactly the same.
That seems so bad.
I know, it's so silly. It's just like, what the hell? Like, this makes no sense.
Glasses on the frame and they're like, oh my gosh.
Oh no, we have to go and find them. Like, it's so crazy. And then like, yeah, but that whole scene where like, he's driving Chicklet and then she ends up like jumping out of the car. They end up going to the drive-in and like he's kind of having this little cat and mouse thing with her. And then also just like, and then the end of this movie. So like the funny thing about this movie is that it gets weird because like then you have this movie end to a point. Then we see that apparently was all a dream, quote unquote, in Chicklet's mind. And or it's supposed to be.
It's like another, film within, or it's like this time. So we started out with it being like a film within a film.
Right.
And then the ending is a dream within reality. I don't know, because we're back at the drive-in.
Right. And then you have like a whole it's not a lobotomy, but it's like electrotherapy happening, which is just like, oh, that's too real. There's that. And then also you have at the complete end of the movie, you have like Chicklet Florence in the back of someone's car and they're like about to stab this couple or whatever. And then that's the literal end of the movie. So you're kind of like, okay, I'm down with it. Like, this is all just like in a weird cosmic reality, I guess. Like, I'll allow it.
I mean, I think that if it would have just ended with like, we caught Lars and everything was all happy, like,
yeah,
that would have been a satisfying ending, because like we're still not exactly sure what's up with like the mom. She's still not like a good person.
Yeah, she still did a few weird things with that bad wig they gave her. Yeah. No, I feel you.
I mean, I also do bad things if somebody gives me a bad wig. Like,
understandable. I mean, how could you not?
Invitation for women's wrongs is a bad wig.
True. You've never been so right. My God.
But I feel like, if Chicklet is escaping mental institutions and gets to be Anne Bowman full time. Like that's actually a happy ending.
I mean, hey, it would be fun. She can get it under control, and then she can just have these different personalities come out when they need to. It's a good
I
time.
think she's just full time Anne Bowman.
That'd be good too. That'd be awesome. I'd love that.
Yeah.
She's kind of fabulous. I love when she goes in the diner and she just has like the cigarette holder. Like it's so stupid.
It's
amazing.
to embrace it. Also, I love that they just didn't give her a real cigarette.
Like literally, they're just like, okay, like, all right. Yeah, no, it's a good time for sure. I also love the beginning of this movie too. Like the title sequence where it's just like a woman gyrating. Like that's just fitting. That makes total sense.
That's the credits too.
And it's the credits as well. Yep, the end credits. Yeah, it just makes sense. And she's in a different outfit, I think. It's fantastic.
Yeah. That show that time has passed.
Yes. They just had to hire some like lady, just be like, can you like gyrate? Have you ever seen those beach movies? Can you do that? She's like, yeah, sure. Why not? I guess if anything, like, do you feel like there's any kind of like, we kind of mentioned it already a little bit. Do you think there's anything in this film that maybe does not like work or age the greatest, perhaps? Again, you start for the defender of this movie. So, but do you feel like there's anything that you could be that you would be critical on to be like, yeah, maybe that didn't work? Also, like you said, the ending, I agree with what that is, though. I agree with you.
I mean, this movie wasn't meant to like make hard-hitting social commentary.
Yeah.
I think some sneaks in, but as far as like what didn't age well, I mean, it already was playing. It's already like a satire, so I don't feel like there's anything that like I need to write my Reddit thread about per se.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it was already going to kind of have that kind of like, it already has the campy feel to it anyway, so it's not like it's going to be like, oh, this is shocking now or whatever. Like I can't be shocked by this because you're like, duh, like
I
makes
feel like the
sense.
biggest thing is that Lars turned out to be Larry when he should have been named Sven and turned out to have been Steven. I think that makes way more sense.
Oh my god, that would have been fantastic, honestly. I would have loved that. Oh my god, it could have worked. Could have absolutely worked. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you on that. Because in terms of like the characters, I mean, really, like the thing is that like I think with Chicklet, she's like our main character because it's like her, Brendon, Marvel Ann to a point, and then the men. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like Kanaka's kind of he's somewhat major to the plot, but not really though, right? Like, I mean, I don't know, like.
He's mostly there because we need Anne to be able to come out.
Right.
And he's like the vehicle for her intro.
Yeah, that's fair. But I do kind of like, and I think I've said it on the other episodes, that I do like it when men are incidental to the plot. And I feel like in this movie, they kind of are, that's why I said like with Thomas Gibson, like he only does so much for me as like Kanaka, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of like, okay, he's not, he's
the bimbo role kind of. I mean, I know he's not literally a bimbo, but he's there to deliver rhymes for no reason.
Sure.
He's always rhyming.
Yeah, you're right.
He's there to like, I don't know, I guess kind of be hot.
Yeah. Although I will say, I think another reason I think maybe why this movie has such like a gay following too. Obviously, it was written by a drag queen, and it has drag queen in it. But like also just like the whole who is it? It's Provolone, and who's the other guy that they kind of like have a little fallen in love moment or whatever. It's very cute.
Oh man.
First off, Provolone, what a name! Like I love that.
Such a good name.
Honestly, it would like one of the people in Beach Blanket Bingo is called Bonehead, so like it makes enough sense. Like it could work. Yo, that's his name.
Yeah, Yo and Provolone. I was like, I know that they kind of sound. They're
fantastic.
Not both food, but they still kind of go together.
Yeah, fantastic. Like, and like one of them's been constipated for like ever, and like he has to try to figure out how to not be constipated anymore, and then it all just had to do with like the fact that once he like accepted himself as being a homosexual, like he was able to like not be constipated anymore. Good for you, girl. I'm happy for you. Like that's awesome. now you and your new boyfriend, who hopefully won't die, although I think they do. I think one of them does die. Like, y'all could have worked. Why can't we have nice things? Damn it. Anyway. Yeah. But yeah, so but I do think like that's always a fun thing too. And I think that's kind of a good space, to I think if anything, like, do you feel like this movie has had any kind of like a legacy or anything like that? Or why do you think maybe it has had the following it has? Like I kind of want to think.
I just
see what you
told you
think.
about Tumblr, so definitely has a legacy for Tumblr
Sure.
girlies. I feel like the movies, like the Tumblr girl movies that were really important, like when I spent a lot of time on Tumblr, were
Mhm.
Psycho Beach Party, definitely Daisies, anything with like straw, and then like obviously like Sofia Coppola's Marie Antoinette, anything with like these strong like ladies love an aesthetic, and this movie
Yeah.
definitely has an aesthetic, but it also has these like lines that you can like turn into, this is like the time of the gift.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so you need both the aesthetics and you need like the lines that you can pull out for the gifts, and I feel like that is really this movie's legacy, as well as like it being an important movie for like queer people in a vehicle for actors in drag.
Right.
So I think it's important.
Yeah, no, totally. And also, like, so would you also consider like a Tumblr girly movie to be The Virgin Suicides?
Yeah, definitely. Like that, definitely in like the Coppola wheelhouse. Because like I spent all of my time on Tumblr in my like early 20s, maybe some late teens. And then there's definitely people who are like in their teens, but it's definitely just like you're trying to like figure out who you are, and a lot of that was through like, okay, aesthetics, and also like the written word, which when you can pull certain lines, you're like, okay, I can relate to that, and then maybe not focus so much on plot. You find the plot later.
Yeah.
Both in your own life and in what art you enjoy.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of those Coppola movies also really help with that. I also think of like Lost in Translation would be a good Tumblr girl movie, like for sure.
Yeah.
That's one. And also to a point, although apparently it's sad I haven't ever seen it, but I'm familiar with it, is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, maybe. That might also be one there too. But
yeah, I feel like I definitely saw some gifts from Eternal Sunshine for sure.
Oh,
I
100%.
was the one reblogging them, but
right, but you're like, I saw them though. They were on film Tumblr. Like I know that much. Like I could say. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I definitely think this movie has had its own little legacy. It has like had different like revivals, productions of it happening, which is always fantastic to see. But yeah, I do think this movie in a way like has had this like, it's been cool to be able to look back at it and see that like it was a springboard for some people earlier in their careers, and also kind of just showing like, I think if anything, like it's cool to be able to see like a nice parody / satire of this teen beach genre, which we don't really get much anymore. I also, like I said earlier, I do think Teen Beach Movie is pretty good at that, because it has like, it's on Disney Channel, it has the musical elements in there, but is aware of the fact that it's a movie, and like it plays into that a little bit. So I can kind of, it's definitely not the worst decom you could put yourself through, if anything. So, because some of them are terrible, but some of them are actually pretty good. So, but it's nice to also see that as well. And I think Psycho Beach Party had a little something to do with that, because, it's one of the things you can point to be like, yep, that's an example of that. So that's always great to see.
Totally. And what an excellent like advertisement for the live show and its many revivals this movie was, because like that's definitely the reason like I'm going to see it next month.
Yeah.
Because I love this movie. So
yeah, 100%. I think this movie also lives in an interesting microcosm of like this, and also like Reefer Madness, the movie musical, I think also for sure. Just those things that were happening that ended up being actually maybe even better than some of the other things that came out. Not saying that this movie or Reefer Madness, the movie musical, were better than like Chicago, for example. But like, I am saying that I think it was probably better than Rent. You know what I mean? Like,
how dare you?
I mean, listen, I am not
How
the
dare
redhead,
you?
honey.
I will defend rent simply because if we did not have rent, straight people would not know that AIDS was sad. They wouldn't know.
Listen,
If
that's
we
the
did not
service Rent
have,
did.
if we did not have rent, we would still have straight people be like, I don't know, that disease sounds like a gay thing, and they would not care. Rent
Oh,
showed America that straight people can get AIDS too.
right, exactly. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. That's a whole complicated one because as a 13-year-old, it's like it is like the edgiest thing you ever seen in your fucking life, you know what I mean? But then when you grow up, you're just like, there's some things in here where you're like, question mark, eyebrow raise, but that's also a Chris Columbus thing. He's also a director where, it's like, why are you doing this? But okay.
It's
Like,
because the
fine.
straight people need to know that AIDS is sad, Jesse. They wouldn't know.
I mean, honestly, you're right. Like, very true. Like, you're not wrong.
America's moms would have no idea if they weren't like 500, like they wouldn't. Is it 400? I don't know. I don't
Whatever,
even know
however
lyrics.
much it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they were not concerned about measuring a year, they would
Right.
not know.
Exactly. Oh my God. Jesus Lord. Again, this also just goes back to like, if you ever remake this movie, everybody, put more musical numbers into it, please. Dear God in heaven. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I think that's do you have any other like, I think we're gonna start wrapping up a little bit, but do you have any particular, like, we already talked about the legacy and all that, but do you have any like particular final thoughts, nice little button on Psycho Beach Party that you wanted to say?
Just the first thing I'm going to sacrifice is your balls. I would say for the legacy, and maybe this is why I'm like particularly drawn to this movie, is jokes per page without overwhelming the plot.
Mm-hmm.
Totally killed it. Charles, you're a great screenwriter.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think this movie I would say this movie, even though I gave it a 3, again, I could be up to a 3.5 or a 4. Like, I do think this movie, like, generally, like, completely fires on the cylinder that's trying to fire on, which is good. It's an enjoyable little watch that you can just like throw on. And if anything, it'll hopefully have you watch the other weird beach movies that it is, taking from, obviously. And it's pretty accurate to what these beach movies were anyway. So I mean, that's always nice. And also just throwing like queer people into the face of independent cinema, like hell yeah, I'm always down for that. Put it in everyone's faces. Damn it.
Yeah, definitely.
Love it. And this movie always lives on Tubi a lot of the time, or at least when it's not on there, like you'll probably be able to find it on there. So that's nice, Surprised it's not on like YouTube for free sometimes with ads, but I'm just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, Tubi's great.
Tubi is great. It's pretty wonderful. But Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming on the show, talking about this movie. There's so much is there so much we could talk about with it? Maybe, but I feel like we did a pretty good job at, talking about how this is a really fantastic little movie. And I'm glad to have had you on to be able to talk about this female-led comedy, that gets into the spooky. Of course. But yeah, if you want to, please, plug your socials and anything you have else coming up. Of course, you have the book and all that, but please plug away.
All right. Well, I am EL Teets on Instagram. Follow me there. That is where I'm most accessible and post all of my things. I will be in Baltimore at the Snug Bookstore in October.
Hell yeah.
I will be in New York at the Drama Bookstore also a few days later, also in early October.
Nice.
And then you can always find me at the Hollywood Theater doing my film series, Isn't She Great? We've got some really good programming for the rest of the year. And other than that, I'll be bopping around Los Angeles, writing books and telling jokes. So
love it. Love that for you. Yeah, for sure. And then definitely pull up on her other podcast appearances too. She did great on This Ends at Prom and Movies That Made Us Gay and all that. Hell yeah. And also You Are Good. That was a really good episode as well. Loved that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Pekka was a recent watch for me and I was like, I was like, I wonder who's going to do episode on this, or you wasn't even thinking about it. And then I was like, isn't that funny that you went on there and then you're coming on my show? This is just symbiosis is what that is. Serendipity.
Especially since I did a boy movie, which is not usually my thing.
Christina Ricci is iconic in that movie with her little laundromat. I love that.
Yeah, she's so cute. But
she is very cute. Yeah. And if you'd like to follow the show on social media, you can do so on Instagram at Cult Cinema Circle and on Twitter at Cult Cine Circle. I'm also on Letterboxd at Jesse, Jesse Kremp, all one word. I post what I've been watching on there, little movie reviews, things like that. And then please rate on your podcatcher of choice, 5 stars, give me a 1-2 sentence review. I'm on all of the podcatchers pretty much, so you can always find me, talking somewhere. And then next week, actually, so this is the end of June, you're hearing this. So to move into the beginning of July, we have a little movie that is kind of an anticipated watch, and would also fit very well into, the Isn't She Great series. But we have, for right before 4th of July, we've got a little movie celebrating 25 years this year. We've got Drop Dead Gorgeous we're going to be covering next week. So I'm very excited about that. Got a great guest lined up, and it'll hopefully be a good fun time. So yeah, that's what you can look forward to next week for sure. But as always, thank you for taking the time to listen to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast. And remember,
I've never been to an orgy before. What do I wear?
Take care. Bye.